pre-dawn darkness of the 16th of September 2025, Dubai's Criminal Investigation Department moved in silence. Armed teams hit luxury villas and high-rise apartments across Jumeirah, Palm Jumeirah, and Dubai Marina in a carefully coordinated operation. 4 of Scotland's most wanted organised crime figures were dragged from their beds: Ross McGill, Stephen Lyons, Stephen Jameson, Stephen Larwood. A 5th, lower-profile Scot from McGill's old Union Bears circle was also detained in the same sweep. Police Scotland, the National Crime Agency, and Interpol had quietly fed intelligence to the UAE authorities for months. The charge sheet, never publicly released in Dubai, centered on the men allegedly directing serious organised crime from Emirati soil, large-scale cocaine importation, and crucially, remote orchestration of the 2025 Lyons and Daniel feud that had already seen more than 50 firebombings, machete attacks, and execution-style murders. In less than a month, Dubai, for years the favoured bolt hole for Britain's fugitive gangsters, had effectively shut its doors to an entire generation of Scottish organised crime figures. For Ross McGill, the handcuffs in the desert marked the sharpest reversal yet in one of the fastest ascents the UK underworld has ever witnessed. From teenage Scottish athletics prodigy and respected Rangers ultras capo, to the man accused of reigniting one of Glasgow's bloodiest feuds from 4,000 miles away. This is the verified story of that rise and the violent turf war that may yet bring him down. Welcome to Crime Pulse. If you're new here, subscribe and turn on notifications. We deal only in confirmed facts, court records, and police statements. Let's begin. It began, innocently enough, on a quiet July afternoon in 2009 at an obscure athletics meeting in the tiny town of Alva, near Stirling. In front of just a handful of spectators, 15-year-old Ross McGill from East Kilbride lines up for a 70-metre sprint, representing Kilbarchan Amateur Athletic Club. He finishes 3rd. It's the first time his name appears in official Scottish athletics results. 6 months later, in January 2010, the talented teenager claimed bronze in the under-17 60 metres at Glasgow's Kelvin Hall, clocking 7.4 seconds. 2011 brings the step up. On New Year's Day at Musselburgh Racecourse professional meeting, McGill dominates the 60-metre handicap final and finishes 2nd in the 90-metre sprint. A few weeks later, back indoors, he enters the under-20 60 metres. He breaks Kilbarchan's long-standing club record and beats every senior Scottish sprinter in the final. By mid-2011, he has been selected for a Scottish athletics development squad coached by 1988 Olympic 400-metre finalist Brian Whittle. By August 2011 at Antrim, Northern Ireland, the Celtic Games, McGill wears a Scotland vest for the first and only time. He wins silver in the 100 metres with a personal best just over 11 seconds. Coaches are already talking about Commonwealth Youth Games trials, GB junior squads, possible sports scholarships. The path looks set. But by the end of that same summer, Ross McGill stops entering competitions. No injury, no explanation. He simply vanishes from the Scottish athletics database. At just 16, the teenager who could outrun almost anyone in the country has already begun running in a world where finishing first carries a very different price. Around the same time, he was buying small amounts of MDMA on the dark web and selling them to school friends and acquaintances. It was low-level, pocket money stuff. This changed when he met Gordon Blackwood, a local dealer 11 years older than him. Blackwood was known in the town for flashing cash, driving flashy cars, and talking openly about easy money. To an impressionable teenager who already had one foot in two worlds, Blackwood became the gateway. He introduced McGill to established cocaine suppliers. Almost overnight, the quality and volume changed. Where most dealers in East Kilbride were shifting poor-grade product cut with whatever was cheapest, McGill started moving uncut, high-purity cocaine. Word spread fast. He cornered the local market while he was still young enough to be in the Scottish athletics system. In 2014, the partnership effectively ended when undercover officers stopped Blackwood at Tantallon Park in the town. They found half a kilo of cocaine, street value around £20,000, concealed in his jogging bottoms. Blackwood was convicted and sentenced to 2 years. By the time he walked out of prison, the younger man he had mentored had long outgrown him. The teenager who once looked up to Blackwood's flash lifestyle had quietly taken the contacts, the supply lines, and the customer base, and was already operating on a different level. Even while the medals were still coming in on the track and the dark web deals were just beginning, Ross McGill was building a third life, one that gave him legitimacy, contacts, and a perfect public cover. In 2008, he became one of the founding members of the Union Bears, the new ultra-style supporters group that was transforming the atmosphere at Ibrox. What started as a teenage passion quickly became serious commitment. McGill organized typhos, arranged away-day travel across Europe, and led the chants that earned the Bears a reputation as one of Britain's most dedicated and vocal fan bases. By the late 2010, he had risen to capo, the recognized leader on the terraces. Thousands followed his hand signals and megaphone calls. He had all areas access at the stadium, walked the pitch before matches, and was regularly invited into corporate and players' areas. Photographs from the period show him handing the Player of the Year trophy to club captain James Tavernier and posing alongside then-manager Steven Gerrard. To Rangers staff and fellow supporters, he was articulate, polite, and fiercely loyal, exactly the kind of young fan the club wanted to showcase. At the same time, the money flowing through East Kilbride was growing too large to hide completely. In 2021, McGill opened a burger and chips takeaway at Whitehills Farm on the edge of the town. His partner was Gordon Blackwood, the same man who had introduced him to cocaine suppliers a decade earlier. Blackwood had just been released from his 2-year sentence and claimed he was going straight. The place did brisk trade at first, but within 3 months, the partnership had collapsed in acrimony. Blackwood walked away. McGill kept the premises for a short while longer before shutting it down. That same year, he co-owned EK Lean, a high-end dry cleaning business in the town centre, with professional bodybuilder John Barry McDuff. The shop specialised in designer labels, exactly the clientele who could afford the cash-heavy lifestyle McGill now lived. Then, without warning, in September 2021, McGill resigned as Union Bears capo. No explanation, no farewell display, just a short statement on the group's social media saying he was stepping back for personal reasons. To the thousands who had followed his lead for years, it looked like another quiet disappearance, the second time he had simply vanished from a world where he had been a rising star. Inside Police Scotland's organised crime files, however, the reason was becoming clear. EncroChat had fallen the previous year. Messages recovered from the cracked network were being decrypted every week, and Ross McGill's name was starting to appear alongside some of the biggest supply chains in the country. On the summer of 2020, French judicial police, working with Dutch counterparts, quietly infiltrated EncroChat, the encrypted messaging platform trusted by organised crime groups across Europe. Over the next 2 years, the decrypted messages were parcelled out to forces around the continent. In Scotland, Police Scotland's Organised Crime and Counter-Terrorism Unit began matching handles and phone IDs to real names. Ross McGill's appeared repeatedly, linked to multi-kilo cocaine and cannabis discussions on the same network threads used by his EK Lean dry cleaning partner, John Barry McDuff. By early 2022, the net was visibly tightening. Arrests were happening weekly. McGill shut his legitimate businesses and left the country. First stop was Marbella on Spain's Costa del Sol, the traditional first refuge for British targets. He stayed only months. National Crime Agency liaison officers were already embedded with Guardia Civil, and in late 2022, he moved on to Dubai. Sources who knew him at the time say he landed with almost nothing, 1 Bitcoin in a wallet, worth roughly £25,000 at the exchange rate then. Within months, the rebuild was underway. Old contacts from the EncroChat era, now scattered themselves, were reconnected. Direct shipping routes were established with South American suppliers, cutting out several expensive middlemen who had since been jailed. The wider circle remained intact. Childhood friend and fellow ex-Union Bear Lloyd Cross was part of the same supply chain before his arrest. Lloyd Cross was later caught and sentenced in 2024 to 6 years for his role in Jamie Stevenson's £100 million banana box importation ring. John Barry McDuff also received 7 years at the High Court in Glasgow in 2024 for directing serious organised crime on the back of the same decrypted messages. In Dubai's expat bubble, none of that mattered. No extradition treaty with the UK, light touch residency rules, and a Scottish community that asked few questions. McGill rented luxury villas, trained in high-end gyms, and lived openly under the nickname Miami. His girlfriend, Olivia Newell, cousin of the jailed Lloyd Cross, joined him there, posting regularly from beach clubs and desert brunches. From the outside, the 31-year-old looked like any other young British expat who had made it big in property or crypto. From Police Scotland's vantage point, he had simply moved the command centre 4,000 miles east and upgraded it. By late 2024 or early 2025, a multi-kilo cocaine shipment lands in Scotland. The buyer is an Edinburgh-based dealer working directly for Mark Richardson, a long-standing Daniel clan ally currently serving a lengthy sentence for heroin trafficking. Payment was approximately £500,000 and was handed over to Ross McGill's representatives. Within days, the notes are tested. A large proportion are high-quality counterfeits, useless. From his base in Dubai, McGill issues an ultimatum: return the real money or face consequences. No repayment arrives. He turns to the one family with both the motive and the manpower to help. The Lyons crime family from Postle Park, Glasgow. Locked in a bitter 2-decade feud with the Daniels. An alliance is formed. Lyons supply up-to-date addresses and intelligence on Daniel and Richardson associates. McGill bankrolls the response. A new street team is assembled, young, masked, and operating under the Portuguese banner, Tamo Junto. Recruitment is done through trusted Lyons and ex-Union Bears contacts. Their orders come encrypted from Dubai. By March 2025, the first attacks hit Edinburgh and East Lothian. The campaign is clinical and public. Drive-by shootings into front windows, petrol bombs through letterboxes, machete assaults in broad daylight. By April, the violence has spread west. Daniel-linked homes and businesses in Glasgow are now burning. The old Lyons versus Daniel war, dormant for years, reignites with a ferocity Police Scotland has rarely seen. Operation Portaledge is launched, the force's dedicated response to the surge. Within weeks, nearly 60 arrests are made, most of them foot soldiers in their late teens and early 20s. TMJ films every major incident on encrypted phones, then posts the footage openly on Instagram and Telegram channels, burning buildings, masked figures issuing warnings set to drill music. The message is consistent. Anyone still aligned with the Daniels or Mark Richardson is a legitimate target. Collateral damage mounts. In Milton, Glasgow, a 72-year-old woman and a 12-year-old boy are assaulted when the wrong house is hit. In Edinburgh, a 54-year-old man is left with life-changing injuries after being attacked outside his home. On 28 May 2025, the retaliation finally crosses the line in the other direction. A black taxi registered to George Newell, father of McGill's girlfriend Olivia Newell, is petrol-bombed in the driveway of the family home on Kingswood Drive, Kings Park, Glasgow. The vehicle is destroyed. For the first time, someone directly connected to McGill has been targeted. 3 days later, on 31st May 2025, senior Lyons figures Eddie Lyons Jr. and Ross Monaghan are watching the Champions League final in a packed Irish bar in Fuengirola, Costa del Sol. A lone gunman walks in, fires multiple shots at close range, and escapes on a waiting motorbike. Both men die at the scene. Spanish National Police arrest a suspect within weeks and insist the case is linked to international organised crime. Police Scotland, however, publicly states there is no intelligence definitively connecting the double murder to the Scottish feud. On the ground in Glasgow and Edinburgh, few believe that assessment. The war has now gone international, and the price has just doubled. Throughout the summer of 2025, the attacks kept coming. New fires in the night, fresh warnings on social media, despite repeated reports of attempted truces brokered face-to-face in Dubai hotels. On the 16th of September 2025, everything changed. In the pre-dawn hours, UAE Criminal Investigation Department teams, acting on months of shared intelligence from Police Scotland and the National Crime Agency, executed simultaneous raids on high-end properties across Dubai. Taken into custody: Ross McGill, Stephen Lyons, Stephen Jameson, Stephen Larwood, and one lower-profile Scottish associate. The men were held at Port Rashid detention facility. No official charges were ever announced by Emirati authorities, but sources close to the operation confirmed the arrests were directly linked to the orchestration of serious organised crime in Scotland and the escalating violence that was now making international headlines. For almost 3 weeks, there was silence. Families in Glasgow received no information. By the first week of October 2025, Ross McGill, Stephen Lyons, and Stephen Larwood had been released without charge, handed deportation orders, and permanently banned from the United Arab Emirates. Their passports were marked accordingly. Dubai had decided it no longer wanted the attention. Stephen Jameson remains in custody in the UAE as of the 20th of November 2025. The Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office confirms it is providing consular support to his family. 60 days after the Dubai raids, Ross McGill is off the grid. Unconfirmed but consistent underworld reports place him first in Brazil, then possibly Morocco or Tunisia, locations with no working extradition arrangements for the EncroChat-related offences he is wanted for in Scotland. Police Scotland's Operation Portaledge states publicly that the deportations have severely disrupted the command structure behind the 2025 violence. Wholesale importation routes, once controlled from the Emirates, are believed to have been fractured. Yet the drugs keep landing and the streets remain restless. In Glasgow's underworld, power vacuums are filled faster than they are created. The old Lyons-Daniel fault line is quieter for now, but no one believes it has healed. Ross McGill, once the teenage sprint champion who vanished from the track at 16, once the respected Union Bears capo, once the untouchable expat kingpin in the desert, remains a fugitive. The question is no longer whether the net is closing, it is whether he can outrun it one more time. Thanks for watching Crime Pulse. Drop your thoughts below. Where do you think Miami resurfaces next? Subscribe and hit the bell if you want to know the second this story moves. Stay safe out there.